Hello, and welcome to our movie analysis. Heidi and I chose Rudy as we feel it accurately depicts the struggles that a non-traditional first-generation student with a low socioeconomic status and a learning disability might encounter. Rudy is based on a true story and begins in the 1960s. The main character, Rudy, has dreams of playing for the Notre Dame football team despite lacking in academic success, financial resources, and other obstacles. Other key characters included his father, who, like the rest of Rudy's family, did not think he could achieve his dreams. His college friend and tutor, D-Bob, who helped Rudy identify his learning disability of dyslexia. His boss and sometimes advisee, Fortune, that reminds Rudy of the things he is gaining in life besides his dream of playing. The story begins with Rudy as a child, stating that someday he will play for Notre Dame. We then learn that during high school he wasn't very athletic and did not receive good grades. Almost everyone around him dismissed his dream of going to Notre Dame and he received no support. His advice was to quit dreaming and to work at the steel mill where you can get $5 an hour, family to support you, and the protection of the union. After 4 years of working at the mill, his best friend dies in an accident at the mill and he decides to leave everything and start school at Notre Dame. Upon arriving at the school, he learns he cannot be admitted because of his grades and starts school at Holy Cross Junior College with the hopes that good enough grades will allow him to transfer to Notre Dame. During his 4 semesters at Holy Cross, he meets a graduate student, D-Bob, which helps him with his studies and recognizes that he has dyslexia. He then gets help from campus services to learn how to study better. He also starts a minimum wage job at the football stadium where he meets Fortune, his boss that helps him realize he should never quit and he has accomplished much during his 4 years of college. He then makes the grades and transfers to Notre Dame at the beginning of his junior year, and despite his size and lack of skill, his determination and heart help him make the team. He knows he has virtually no chance of ever playing in a game, but he puts such effort into practice every day that most players do not like him as he makes them look bad. After 2 seasons, he wins over the players that joined to make the coach let him play in the last game, thus achieving his dream.
I believe that in the movie Rudy, student development is defined as growing, overcoming barriers, and the development during and the short time leading up to an individual's college experience. It's portrayed through seeing Rudy Rudiger looking at attending Notre Dame but being told he's unable to because of his grades and his family's money in his high school experience. Then, while working at a steel mill with his best friend, 2 older brothers, and his father, his best friend Pete, who is the main support of for his dream of playing football at Notre Dame, dies in an explosion. It's clear that Rudy's been able to manage his emotions through his decision of attending college like his friend Pete would have wanted immediately following his death. He's able to become autonomous by attending college on his own and making his own money to pay for the tuition. He's able to develop mature interpersonal relationships not only with a new friend and tutor while learning he has dyslexia, but also with the head groundskeeper, even so much so that Fortune promises to see his first Notre Dame football game from the stands while Rudy plays. Rudy established his identity when he became part of the team. Then he developed his purpose by pushing his limits of how much he could take on the practice field to ensure others were prepared for the game. Finally, he developed an identity so strong that the team was willing to have their best players sit out of a difficult game just to allow Rudy to play in his final college game. I think this shows that student development in college is ever changing and is different for each individual, but can also show that striving for greatness can pay off.
With such an array of topics in the movie, we could choose many developmental theories to discuss. We are going to discuss identity development, establishing identity, and the validation theory. I believe Rudy is exploring his identity as related to Marsh's model of identity development. This identity versus role confusion does appear throughout the film as Rudy tries to find his place. At the beginning of the movie as a youth, he is in the foreclosure status as he typically listens to his family and does what is expected of him. After high school, he moves on to the moratorium status as he is undecided on what to do regarding his job, goals, and girlfriend. Identity achievement is then reached when he decides to go to college to fulfill his dream and explore who he is without the influence of his family. With his identity found, he does struggle when those around him rejects that identity. His family still does not support him, Notre Dame rejects his application, and the student body does not accept him because he is not a student yet. Rudy then moves on to establishing that identity. This could be true for many college students as they mature into a new person and must find a way to let their old life accept their new one. We can then apply Chickering's theory of establishing identity during his college years, as Rudy goes through all 7 vectors of development. The most relevant to our story are developing competence, developing mature interpersonal relationships, developing purpose, and developing integrity. In developing confidence, one of his first steps was learning how to be a good student and to develop the skills necessary to succeed at school. I believe when he learned about his dyslexia, it was a turning point for him. He received the confidence to know he was capable of achieving good grades. He just needed to understand how to read and study. He developed mature interpersonal relationships and may not have been successful at college without them. His boss Fortune helped him with a job, a place to live, and life advice. His friend and tutor D-Bob helped him with his studies and gave him the emotional support all students need during stressful times. Additionally, all his teammates and coaches who were part of the football team helped his needs of belonging, while he helped the team achieve their needs as well. Rudy's developing purpose vector changes throughout the film. Initially, it was doing what was expected of him by working at the mill. Next, his driving purpose of playing for the team motivated him to go to college and study hard. Once he made the team, helping his teammates was his primary purpose. When he learns he is not going to play in the final game after all of his hard work, he reaches the final vector of developing integrity by not quitting and continuing to practice with the team even though he failed in his quest. The next 2 slides will show short video clips from the movie. The first clip is a good representation of when Rudy is establishing his identity and helps the audience identify with the character. The second clip represents a validation theory and will follow up with a discussion by Heidi.
What brought you here today?
I just came from my best friend's funeral. He said that...
Of course.
What do you mean, of course?
Well, son, it's very common for people suffering a crisis to seek escape into the cloth. We usually recommend a grieving or a cooling off period.
Escape into the cloth?
That's just an expression that we use to describe people who are running away from emotional or psychological pain by choosing priesthood.
You think I want to become a priest?
Don't you?
Nothing against being a priest, Father, but I don't think it's for me.
Why are you here?
I want to go to school at Notre Dame.
Well, have you applied?
No, my grades have never been very good, even though I tried. But I'll try harder. I'll study 20 hours a day if I have to.
This university, it's not for everybody.
Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to go to school here. And ever since I was a kid, everyone said it couldn't be done. My whole life, people have been telling me what I could do and couldn't do. I've always listened to them, believed in what they said. I don't want to do that anymore.
Okay, Mr. Rudy. Here's the deal. Holy Cross Junior College is nearby. I could get you 1 semester there. You make grades, you get another semester. Then maybe with a high enough GPA, you might have a chance of getting into Notre Dame.
Hey. What you doing here? Don't you have practice?
Not anymore, I quit.
Oh. Well, since when are you the quitting kind?
I don't know, I just don't see the point anymore.
So you didn't make the dress list. There are greater tragedies in the world.
I wanted to run out of that tunnel for my dad. To prove to everyone that I
Prove
worked...
what?
That I was somebody.
Oh, you are so full of crap. You're 5 feet nothing, 100 and nothing, and you got hardly a speck of athletic ability. And you hung in with the best college football team in the land for 2 years. And you're also gonna walk out of here with a degree from the University of Notre Dame. In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself. And after what you've gone through, if you haven't done that by now, it ain't gonna never happen. Now go on back.
Sorry I never got you to see your first game in here.
Hell, I've seen too many games in this stadium.
I thought you said you never saw a game.
I've never seen a game from the stands.
You were a player?
I rode the bench for 2 years. Thought I wasn't being played because of my color. I got filled up with a lot of attitude. So I quit. Still not a week goes by, I don't regret it. And I guarantee a week won't go by in your life you won't regret walking out, letting them get the best of you. You hear me clear enough?
The validation theory is seen throughout the movie's entirety. While there's two different types of validation, academic and interpersonal, I think both can be seen at different points throughout the movie. To begin with academic validation, I believe it can be seen through allowing the ability to learn and gain confidence in being a college student. Fortune, the head groundskeeper, talks to Rudy about his time on the field and deciding to quit because he felt he wasn't getting enough playtime because of his skin color. This issue is very common during the film's time period and has seen small changes within the sport itself. He spoke of not having to prove anything to anyone but himself and that he regrets quitting the team every day. I think in seeing this, Rudy sees he's not only getting an incredible opportunity of being on one of the greatest teams, but also gaining the education that he has as well. This shows academic validation because it shows a mentor figure who's gone through the same experience and decision of leaving the team because of less playing time, telling him that he's going to regret it for many years to come. Next, interpersonal validation is very prevalent towards the end of the film. Because interpersonal validation allows others to recognize the development and social adjustments taken by the individual, I think it's fair to say that other members of the team laying their jerseys down for him and requesting that he suit up for his final game validated Rudy, whether he knew it was happening or not. He's able to recognize that the team has stood through him and his time being on the practice squad and the different hardships he's endured. The issue with validation theory is that to be able to go through the elements of validation, there has to be a sense of invalidation from the individual. Also, there's a commonly held belief that faculty or staff have to lower their expectations to allow validity to be held, and that's not the case. I believe having high standards while still being achievable allows a student to be able to strive for greatness. I think this film does accurately portray student development. It allows the viewer to see how Rudy progresses through his college years in striving to better himself for the opportunity to get into Notre Dame and to be able to play football. You see him while his family tears apart his dream of playing at Notre Dame. You see his transition to the need of fulfillment of this dream immediately following Pete's death. You see his drive when he recognizes he doesn't have the grades and the learning disability. You're able to see the commitment every single time that he gets a rejection letter, and you see the achievement when he finally receives that acceptance letter to Notre Dame. You see his passion when he's trying out and finally is allowed onto the practice squad. You see his determination every time he attends practice and isn't able to suit up. You see his excitement when he's finally able to suit up and play for Notre Dame football team in front of his father. I think that my own informal theories allow me to look at things from a different standpoint than others. Because chaos theory and the butterfly effect are a large part of an informal theory for me, I'm not sure that Rudy would have actually pursued his dream of playing football at Notre Dame if it wouldn't have been for Pete's death. Because of one change and with the different challenges that he faced throughout the movie, he's able to overcome things that might not have been an issue, such as grades might have been better if he didn't have dyslexia. He might not have even liked Notre Dame football if it weren't for his father. Students today can't even relate to Rudy because many students feel the need for validation in college, especially because they're leaving what they know behind. Students might not feel accepted because of a variety of things such as race or learning disabilities, or they might even feel the need for validation from parents to pay their tuition for this education. The themes from this movie have still shown their presence in today's society, and it's important to recognize that students go through these processes at different rates of speed and call upon those in higher education to be able to be there as a guide for their journey.
I also feel the film made an accurate depiction of student development. I could identify with the main character of Rudy as I also came from a low socioeconomic status household, was a non-traditional and first-generation student. Coming from a low SES household, you must worry about money in a way that many college students do not understand. This means getting part-time jobs, living in a situation that is not your preference, and sometimes not joining student activities as these often cost money. The characteristics of a first-generation non-traditional student make you feel like you should do everything on your own. You can't get advice from your family, and most services are geared toward the typical student. Rudy felt these as well as he could not get help from his family. He had to get part-time jobs. He had to live in the maintenance building. He could not be part of school organizations because he was not a student at Notre Dame. And as he was a bit older, developed a friendship with a graduate student. All of these are consistent student developments for a student in Rudy's situation. The movie also showed how his teammates and those around him began to accept him as they themselves went through their own college development, especially one character that stayed on the team just because of Rudy and the qualities he portrayed. The other main character of D-Bob was a graduate student. I also felt his development was accurate as he developed a relationship with a girl. At first, he was very shy and didn't know how to talk to girls. At the end of college, he established a relationship with the girl that fits his personality. At the end of the movie, this relationship had developed even further into something more permanent. This development shows student progression of maturity and how the character is seeking love in a long-term partner. My informal theory is tied to the American dream and is represented in the movie. I believe if you work hard enough and you believe in something hard enough, you can achieve your goal. Some will say this is not so and give examples of why not everyone can go to college or get a good job. I don't have good enough grades. A computer is needed to apply online. I have no support from my family or friends. Yes, there can be many obstacles that stop us from achieving our dreams. I believe, no matter how big, those obstacles can be overcome. Rudy has many obstacles and was told his dream of playing for Notre Dame was beyond him. It would have been much easier for him to accept his life and the way it was. He decided to pursue his dreams. In doing so, he proved everybody wrong, was true to himself, and confirmed my theory. It also helps my theory that the movie is based on a true story. We hope you enjoyed our presentation and would like to close with a tagline from the movie poster. When people say dreams don't come true, tell them about Rudy.